Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to another episode of Unknown Sundays. This is an extension of our article section at beyondyourradio.com, where I talk about a relatively unknown artist, band, something in the music multiverse world, whether it's production, could be anything. But really think it's like an idea to get the listeners, people who watch the show, into something else that maybe they did not hear of, and they can go on a rabbit hole of exploration if they so choose. Happy belated Bastille Day. Yes, this article on YouTube were supposed to go off yesterday. They did not. As a matter of fact, I think by the time this airs, it'll probably be Tuesday. A lacrosse tournament, and my car broke down on the way back several hours outside of home in the middle of nowhere. So makes things a little bit different. But the French Revolution, set in motion by the storming of the Bastille, elegantly named moment in history that puts us on notice. We can't rest on our laurels. We can't be satisfied by smiling and waving like a monarchist at the subjects that we don't care about and future that we don't believe in. There's reinvention or taking of it of any sort. Music can sometimes be trapped in that, right? The old subjugation of sound, right? Music can sometimes be appropriated by people with narrow versions of things. Subjugate the sound again, like I said, right? This is that idea that they'll deem what's appropriate and what's not. Well, screw that. Storm the recording studio, get on stage, and let the notes fly. Conventionally, unconventionally, a sound revolution is always a welcome. And that brings us to the revolutionist, bringing two distinctly different genres together. They may have not seen ear to ear. Can't say eye to eye, right? I have talked about electronica before. It's been on the channel multiple times. I recall the hold it had on me in the mid-90s, late 90s. Non-traditional jazz has on people, and the reverse in the past. That people are just, this is bringing jazz and electronica together, right? Most of the people in the jazz world, yikes. As I began exploring electronics in the late 90s and more aggressive purchasing habit, I started to realize just how new it was in its total age, but also in nature to spread. Some might feel like it spread like a virus. Some might feel it spread and was a huge part of the music making industry as it is today. But sure, I also had the record store filling my ear, as well as with some purchases, but there were other places that were feeding my obsession as well. One also has to realize, going backward in time, that the scope of what is now classified as electronica is a larger scope and spread. Think about it. You take Kraftwerk, the one easy ones, Kraftwerk, Otekra, maybe Underworld, Massive Attack, Boards of Canada. But you can also include Radiohead's Kid A. You can include Vespertine by Bjork, as well as Tricky, Burial, Prodigy. And then you can go into Apex Twin, LCD Sound Systems, and even that of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Then there's this one band. Well, actually, this one man, Ludovic Navarre, under his pseudonym, Saint Germain. And you could say brought it smack dab, dub, looped, and reverently into the jazz community back in the mid-90s. His creative DJ merging, sampling, looping with live jazz musicians became a centerpiece of jazz house, new jazz in Europe. Especially in France. His devoted attention to classic jazz and even the blues made for a marvelous, respected new sound in the ever-bridging reach of the electronic environment. Again, that virus spreading. And I believe that the French embracing it as much as they did, despite the non-traditional approach, that is enough to be said, and that's a big, big something. However, I would discover Saint Germain until an album came across in 2000 that had looped in the great Dave Brubeck, Take Five, as the sample. And I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite jazz artists of all time songs. And this one also had Miles Davis and John Lee Hooker. That's right, from Don Johnson and Jennifer Connelly's The Ruckusly Not Very Good The Hot Spot. Not exactly a blockbuster, right? But no surprise to you, I have the soundtrack. Why? Because the Southern Blues is just as good on it. That this had to be used. I mean, this guy hears this and uses the sample. Well, St. Germain hooks me in like he did just about everyone on the music loving jazz planet. Enter 2000's Tourist. Was this the first Blue Note album I ever bought? Probably. I'm not quite sure. Couldn't tell you. I can't say for sure. Is this the first electronic album to reach #1 on jazz contemporary charts? I couldn't prove it. I believe it may be. I don't even know if there ever was one after this. I find no evidence to substantiate it, but I can tell you that I've listened to shit ton of these types of albums, and this one is the one I remember the most. And why I went digging, and I went digging, it seemed to be the one that was remembered the most in the community of jazz meets house music. It went #2 in Canada as well in that chart. How did they pull it off? Well, it's the playing and the music sampling that he utilizes in the house and trance styles, but live musicians get to play. It's so sickeningly talented that these players, they bend, they groove, and funk around in improvisational bliss with the house music and that temperamental looping being the background, almost like the drummer holding the note while everybody's going on. It's just remarkable. So Tourist is a slam dunk. It's a perfect record in the genre, as well as in the entire catalog of music in the year of 2000. Yeah, I know. I didn't mention it when I did my panelist favorite show and gave you my 5 favorite albums, even my honorable mentions. Well, believe me, I had a reason why I didn't do that because I was going to be coming to this eventually. But I will tell you this, when I get further on, uh, my top 5 might change. It's ironic that the last song on the last record that was actually just the new stuff called Saint Germain is Forget Me Not. This album's tight with African and Middle Eastern orchestration, while a complete departure from the 4 million worldwide selling juggernaut the Tourist was. However, the album was another success, again ranking #2 in the American contemporary jazz charts, but also in under the top 10 in the 7s, 6s, and 5s and 2s in Heat Seekers and also in dance electronica, house music in the United States. So it's ranked. It was well done. And so technically, there's no reason for there not to be another record, right? Well, but besides the Tourist Anniversary Edition and in that same year, Extra Cabin Baggage, which are remixes, he's been quiet, relatively unsearchable, which is kind of astounding considering the talent that he is and the respect that he gets. But considering we had 15-year timetable between the last 2 albums, I guess we can just figure on 2030. While you and I wait, and there's these early recordings to explore that might not have hit the jazz connection as intently, a little bit more house centered, but still had the jazz playing in it that you can go back to. There's also the exploration of bands like Thievery Corporation, Nightmare on Wax, Jagged Jazzist, and the New Deal out of Canada. Just to name a quick few for you that I can think of off the top of my head. St. Germain's Tourist, it's game changing. If you haven't heard this record, it's one of those records you have to hear. I would say it's in the list of albums that you have to listen to before you die. The catalog is truly unique in departing from the prior record, as well as developing and redeveloping sound production into these experiences that don't linger long in repetition, but they do linger long in improv and groove. That could be dinner music to house club music, really broad spectrum. I can't wait to redo my favorites list from the year 2000, as I'm pretty sure now that Eminem, Everclear, and Coldplay have stiff competition in the top five. That's right, Sana Jihad, which was the electronica album I have in my list by Snake River Conspiracy. It has fallen out of the top five. But you go listen and you tell me what you think. Albums by Saint Germain in my collection. Yes, I have Boulevard from 1995. I also have the 1999 From Detroit to Saint Germain, the complete series, which actually I do believe, if I remember correctly, has most of the Boulevard stuff in it too. 2000s Tourist, that's a for certainty. And 2015 Saint Germain, I got about a few months ago in a used bin. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. And until tomorrow, well, happy listening and happy Bastille Day belated.